I want to give a quick shout out to all my patrons. Thank you so much for all of the continued support. And I am done. Okay, so I just got done reading Battle Mage by Peter Flannery, and I want to give you my unedited thoughts on finishing this book, which was just right now. So this book is great. I'm going to give this one 5 stars. It's extremely entertaining and really shockingly good, considering I never really heard of it before. So this is a standalone book, and it was chosen for me by Steve Z. He's a commenter on this YouTube channel, and he won my TBR contest twice. If you win that thing twice, or get within the top 3 twice, really, because anybody in the top 3 wins, you get to pick any book you want for me to read. So this is what he chose, and I'm really, really happy that he chose this. So this book, you know, somehow fits what feels like an entire series into this one rather large book. I mean, I'm actually kind of disappointed that it's a standalone, and I just feels like this series could have been so much longer. I mean, it's nearly 700 pages, which is long. I mean, it's not insanely long for a fantasy book, but on the longer end, I think on average, fantasy books are in the 500 page range, so this is pretty long. But it's so fast. I mean, this book is action-packed from pretty much the beginning until the end. I mean, and it just ended up led to me devouring this thing. I mean, normally when I read, I do this strange thing. I don't know if you do it too, but when I don't like a book, I usually read it faster than if I like it. If I like something, I usually slow down. And if I don't like something, I'm like, I got to get through this thing. I just want to get moved on. But this was the rare case, I think because of how fast it was, that I loved it and I just consumed it to no end. So, yeah, 5 stars. You know, is it the top of the top 5-star for me? No. At the end of the year, when I do my breakdown of every single book that I read this year and do a little recap of that, this will be on the bottom end of the 5 stars. But, you know, not every book can be, you know, the top of the top, the Dandelion Dynasty or the First Law or stuff like that. And this one's just really good. So let me try to break down the basic story here for you without ruining anything for you. Anything I say here will be stuff that you kind of find out in the first chapter or so. It does not really give away the wider plot of what's going on. So basic story here. There's like these extremely powerful demons that every now and then like climb up into Earth from like the 7th layer of hell. And it takes the whole might of the human world to defeat them. But the demons themselves are so terrifying that it's almost like a magic spell they put on people because they're so scary, and that they cause fear in basically anybody opposing to them and are essentially like unstoppable. But some humans have the talents to become what's called in this series, or not series, book, a battle mage, which allows them to cast like a defensive spells on the humans that are fighting them to make the fear lessened so they can actually like fight the demons. Also, whenever someone becomes a battle mage, they're able to summon a dragon to aid them for the rest of their lives. You only get one dragon, but there's a chance that the dragon that they've summoned, there's like the ceremony they do, and when enough mages get together, and for a battle mage's purpose, from some other dimension, they summon this dragon. They don't understand where it comes from or how, but a dragon comes. But every now and then the dragon will be black. And that means that the dragon is insane and will try to kill the humans. So if that one is summoned and it's black, then it must instantly be killed, which means that battle mage will never get a dragon. Also, dragons, the vast majority are not black, but they slowly become black over time. And one finally turns black, it's got to be killed. So the main character of this story is the son of an infamous battle mage who's been long dead when the series starts. But his dragon turned black, but instead of killing it like everybody else would do, he sided with the dragon and turned on the humans and killed like countless people before he was finally put down. So the main character of the story, he has this huge trauma associated with his father, as you can imagine, because basically everybody hates him for what his father did, and he lives kind of like an outcast. So when the story starts out, there's been this long period of peace since his dad died and the last demons have come, but the demons have come back. And they've also brought this demon that is like one of the most powerful demons from hell, and they are like more powerful than they've ever been. And they also take control of one of the human civilizations, which they possess to aid them. So a fearsome combination, and that's really where the book starts out. The book starts off with things looking dire, and we have to go try to solve this problem. You know, you've got this group of friends who are younger adults, although this is definitely not a YA story. It's got maybe some YA elements, but it's definitely not. And they do the classic thing where they've got to go somewhere else, get trained, and help aid, you know, the people that are bigger than them in trying to defeat this major problem that's come. It sounds kind of like a basic story. You know that there's going to be some mystery involved in this that I don't want to tell you about. It's the best kind of mystery, because when you finally figure out what's going on, the clues were there all along that hopefully, like me, you didn't really see coming. And I love those sort of twists. I love those bends in the story that just totally blindside you, but fairly. I've read so many books where some twist will happen, and although it's cool, you know, there was no way you could have figured it out. I love the idea that it was there all along, and I should have seen it, but I didn't. So, yeah, the plot, very intriguing, right? I mean, that sounds interesting, and it's really fun. I mean, even though demons are not a new concept to literature and to fantasy books, I don't think I've read a lot of books with them. I mean, I've read a couple. I mean, I read recently, actually, I don't want to say what it is, because the demons in it, ask me on Discord if you want to know what I'm talking about. But there are demons in a book, but you don't really know there's demons in them until halfway through, and when they finally come, it's a lot cooler. So I'll leave that. Sorry, getting a little over a little sickness. So yeah, really fun plot. And I love this Peter Flannery guy is very entertaining writer. He blends really nice prose with also really accessible prose. I love the idea. I don't think I've ever read a standalone book like this where it feels like a whole series. That's wonderful. Normally I read these standalones that feel very isolated. They feel like nothing can be added to this world. This one feels like it's a series. It feels like even at the end of this that we could come back to this world. And I did a little investigating after I finished this. Actually, did a deep dive on the author's Goodreads page and his Q&A section, and somebody was begging him to write another book in the series, and he admitted that even though he never intended to, he is writing, I think, a prequel story, maybe a sequel, but I think a prequel. But he also said, don't expect it anytime soon, because he writes very, very slowly, which, you know, everyone's got their own writing process. That's cool. The magic elements here are really fun. I mean, nothing truly innovative here. You've got dragons, you've got people that are possessed, you have inexplicable soft magic that, you know, is what it is. Not everybody has it, but it's good stuff. You know, I think the characters in this story were highly entertaining, especially the main character and his main group of friends, but even the antagonists, because there's antagonists to this story that I won't tell you about that are on the, you know, the good people's side, and that are a major obstacle towards defeating this problem. And they have to get through that in order to be able to defeat the demons. And so, you know, hearing and learning about these people that have malintent, you kind of get the picture about it from the beginning, but trying to figure out their true motivations is what's going on. It really adds to a lot of the mystery here and a lot of the fun action of this really epic fantasy story. I mean, I can't get over, you know, I've always looked at epic fantasy as something that almost needs a big series to achieve. It's epic, right? It needs a big scope. You're telling a huge story, and, you know, with intense maps and details and all of that in 700 pages. For truly a nice epic story, it's really cool. And for that reason, this will be a book that I recommend to people fairly often. I mean, on my Patreon, I have a tier of my Patreon. I'm not trying to pitch it to you, but it is relevant to what I'm saying. Is one of the tiers on my Patreon. It's rather expensive, but at every 3 months, I send a book to that person. I find out, we talk, I get a sense for what books they've read, what they've thought about those books, and then I pick a book that I kind of know they're going to love based on their interests. And I know this is one that I'm going to be recommending to people because there's so many books that are similar to it. And I hesitate sometimes to recommend really long series to people because it's like, man, I'm investing thousands and thousands of pages onto you that, you know, can be tough, but only 700 pages, that's great. You know, what else here? The world. The world is very nicely built. You know, there's not a lot of differentiation between the different settings here. I mean, we do go to several different locations, but they all feel kind of samey. But I do love that the world is big. I mean, we're not spending our whole book in 1 or 2 or 3 different places. We're really going out there. It feels like we're in a battle. a war where there's multiple fronts and many different battles that we have to go through. And yeah, it's just, it gives you a nice sense of scale, which I really appreciated. I already talked about the prose. The prose is very good. It's clearly this guy, Peter Flannery, has written before. This is not his intro into literature. It'd be very difficult to write your first book and be this quality without doing a lot of writing beforehand. I mean, maybe somebody like 𝐿 Rocco can do it, the author of The Sun Eater, but that is not a trait that almost anybody has, unless they're just truly gifted and should have gotten into this way before because, and honing their craft because the world would benefit by them delivering stories out there. What else do I need to talk about here? Who would enjoy this book? I always like to talk about that. I think the people that would enjoy this I'm trying to think of other series that there's some connection to, because it is it's a multi-POV, but it's more of a single POV. You get a few different perspectives, even from the bad side, the demon side, which is really cool to see, but it's not often. I'd say 90% plus, is from the eyes of this one guy. And because of that, there's not a ton of fantasy that's similar to that, but I would say, instead of saying like what series I think that you'd like in order to like this, I'd say if you like a classic fantasy story told in a little bit of a newer way. Think like Ryan Cahill's series, The Bound and the Broken, has a lot of those kind of similar themes to them. We get these old elements, dragons and magic and sword and sorcery kind of stuff, but with these more modern writing styles and the way that twists are done and just the way the words are put out there and the quick pace to these stories instead of just kind of slogging away. This book's not a slog. It's pretty fast paced and just a joy to read. So yeah, I definitely recommend it to this people, and I look forward to reading more Peter Flannery. I don't really know much about him. I definitely want to do more research and figure out what he's done, because this guy has the skills to write a great story. So that is it for me. Thank you so much for watching this review, and as always, happy reading to you. Thanks again to all my patrons, with a special shout out to my Ascendant tier and Librarian tier patrons: Anna G, CJ, Doust, Darren, Gregory, Jonathan, Nathan T, Nev's Book Channel, 𝐿𝐿, Ron Reich, Russell, Ryan L, Sydney Baker, Tahir, Anna, Andra, Blair, Brock, Evan, Fanixan, Harry B, Joe, Kat Mick, Maria, Michael Sugarman, Sky, �TW57, 𝗏𝐿𝐿, and Zion. Thanks for sticking to the end of this video, and if you want to watch some more content from my channel, click over here and I've got some good videos for you. Thanks so much.